the back of the hand into the floor. Push. The arms get their power from the back of the diaphragm. Take down the nose. Power. Good. Now, knee position. Upper arms parallel to the floor. Good. Big inhale. Exhale. Shut water. Inhale. Say an extra breath to undo the locking of the elbow. Again. Elbows put a little wide, cross side line, and then go back. Nice. Drink there. And we'll roll down to the knees again. We'll do then Asana. So half a frog. Shouldn't be a problem. We'll start here. Watch, and then we just pick up one foot, reach back, and then at a certain point, if the flexibility is there, you'll be able to rotate the hand so the fingers go the same direction as the toes. And then you square to the front, and then you can study what the gluteus maximus does by relaxing the glutes. The heel comes closer to the floor, and then retoning them. And relaxing, retoning, relaxing, retoning. And the heel goes in little steps, closer and closer to the floor. Oh, it gets more exciting, closer to the heel. And so the glutes are external, big, powerful external rotators. When you relax them, pubic bone comes close a little bit more from the floor. It increases just the extension. It tends to switch off. If you keep the coccyx going back, you can kind of play this, and it's interesting. But you have to play the two patterns back and forth. Sliding right. So do one side and then do the other. Then we'll see both at the same time. The cobra frog. So the right foot first. You square to the front and then you pull the spine forward. So your cobra arm can help pull the spine forward. But then notice what happens when you tone the right buttock. And then when you release it, notice how the femur really inwardly rotates. But then retone the buttocks. And you can start to play with these two patterns. Right there, sometimes we have asymmetry in the pelvic floor. The coccyx is skewed, deviated, like a deviated septum. And then try the other leg. Release that leg. And then left one pops up. Forward. So if you relax the bone, there's a noticeable inward rotation. Tone it. Slows down that ankle. Just go down the steps. And now that the heel is fairly low on this side, before we let go, as a final gesture, heel down, stretch the femur back and lift the knee up off the floor. To get some sensation. And then, let's invite the other leg to join too. Now, if you're really flexible, it's too easy. That's good to be stiff. So, people always ask, well, in Ekasana, should my buttocks be hard or soft? And the answer is yes. these are variables that you play with in the posture because you're serving prana and apana to the gradual creation of mula bandha, whatever that is. So you just smile and look down your nose. Do both at the same time. Deep breath in. And then exhale, chwari. Oh. Inhale, pancha. Oh, good. Now don't lock your elbows. Put a little more bend in the elbow. Oh, imagine your kidney wings were real rather than imaginary. And look down your nose as if you were pedigree. Proper dog. Keep the kidney wings wide. More bend. All have it in. And then the downward dog. That's good. Okay. And back down to the knees. Well, let's skip ahead. So we're going to skip all the way to your favorite posture. Camel. It's a great posture. We're stranded on a deserted island. We had only two postures to take with you. One to take. So notice, now that our buttocks has been trained, in Uttanasana, should the buttocks be hard or soft? Yes. Yes. It's your body. Good alignment feels good. Bad alignment feels bad. So, when we first start to get into this, we're going to move almost as if we were serpents rather than people. So, we are going to drop the coccyx and let it flow into the PC muscle fibers. So we want to keep the pubic bone down and back because the pubic bone, she's receiving the coccyx. And the fibers of PC muscle tone, it actually brings coccyx and pubic bone slightly closer to each other. If we just pinch the buttocks, push the pubic bone forward, we're making the pelvic floor longer and more narrow. And this will create pain in the SI joints, and if not there, then in the lumbar spine. So when we start the posture, we spin the legs slightly inwards and down like water. So the apana tends to spin down like that. And that way, coccyx drops, the pubic bone stays down, and the sacrum goes in and up. So one of the things that we learned, oh, this is a nice relief, but the sacrum is not the coccyx, and if your sacrum follows the coccyx down and tries to go into the pelvic floor, the pubic bone gets freaked out. See, the sacrum is the mother of the coccyx. The coccyx is the groom. Pubic bone is the bride. Yoga is a wedding night. So it's now yoga time. Pubic bone, she sets up the width, the right shape of the pelvic floor. Okay. And then the coccyx starts to come in. Everything is okay. Then, if the mother-in-law of the pubic bone won't let go of the little prince, she's huge, wedge-shaped. She tries to go into the pelvic floor. Pubic bone sees mother-in-law, and she runs out the other side. The whole kingdom is upset. So in all of these backbends, upward dog, what's true? Forward bends too. The direction of the sacrum, once the pelvic floor is balanced, the SI joints
become balanced in a way that the sacrum seems to float forward and up out of the SI joints. But the coccyx drops down and goes forward. Pubic bone drops down and stays back. So whenever you're adjusting somebody, you push their sacrum in and up, but the coccyx goes in and down. So there are two different directions. So here's what we'll do. Start this way. Inhaling, I lift, imagine the kidney wing lifting, spreading as coccyx drops. And then I'll reach up with one arm. Remember, this is a psoas stretch. I'll reach up with both. And then I'll drop one hand back, half a camel. But I'm going to turn the arm this way rather than that way. So, main prana spin is outward, but that's easy. We can all do that. So we come back and we add the inward spin, and that's going to keep your back wider. So it gives more of the lower floating original lift. And then we reach up, and we drop this arm back. But for now, leave the head up. This is the social camel. Spin the arms inwards rather than outwards. This is radical. And then boot your sacrum in and up, spreading the kidney wings. Then the head goes back. And you look down and go. Oh. After a long time, exhale. And inhale. Okay? So what's different about that is our sequence of entry. And we're not rolling the head back until finally it's all set up. And we start the official pose by booting the sacrum in and up. And then the spine unrolls, and the head is the last vertebra to roll back. So you're unrolling, and you look down and low. And the palate releasing feels like it's falling back in your head. Got it? Let's try it. Push it out the camera. Reach out with both arms. Spin, wrap shoulder blade down, lift the arms. Help, please save me. And then big inhale, and then drop your right hand back to the right heel. So the four fingers go outside rather than inside. And then, when you're ready, drop the other arm back. So leave your head up for now, so you can make sure everybody else is doing it. And then, here we go. Inhaling, nudge your sacrum up and in, keeping the pubic bone drop down, the coccyx lights up. But put a tiny bend in your elbows just to exaggerate the inward spin of the upper arm, so that your kidney wings come up, coccyx drops and goes forward. So you're getting the Patanjali pattern as a sofa. And then when the head finally goes back, release your palate, look down your nose, and imagine a cobra hoodie opening in the back of your head and flowing up over the crown. Cobra hoodie opens in the back of the head. Now to come out alive, exhale, put hands on hips, and inhale, the head is the last thing to come up. And then right away, flip arm. Without any further ado. Come in long and upward dog. Don't uproot the index finger. Down your nose. Dog. Sophisticated. Big inhale and then counter roll. Okay. Collarbones roll back, spread apart. Light up. Okay. And back to. Did that work? It was difficult, didn't it?
I always do it backwards, but I always do it that way, not that way. Because I like that kidney wing thing coming up the back. Yeah, it's much, because the counteraction makes all the joint tension in the joints release. And it helps the neck. If your shoulder blades are like this, and you kind of turn the head down, your neck jams. If you turn the shoulders this way more, like in Purvantanasana, that kind of funny back then, primary series beginning, that's kind of nice on the neck. The shoulders have that more tonic shape. The shoulders form more of a sling to the neck, and you get a nice length in front of the neck. If you pinch your shoulder blades, the cobra hoodie, so the cobra hoodie is back here. You can flip it up in the rain. It has a minimum of 7 hoodies. Okay. It'll close. If your cobra hoodie goes down, then you're in trouble. Because you can't shoulder blades. Cobra hoodie doesn't want to play. Comes down, the apana feels disrespected and goes away. And that's just a matter of time before your joints are out.
Wedding-like scenario.
The wedding.
Yeah, it's hard for me to realize that the pubic bone isn't attached to the iliac bone, and then the sacrum.
Yeah, it's part of their one bone.
So when you say
And the sacrum is a separate bone. The coccyx is a separate bone.
so can you move the sacrum separate from the pubic bone?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a joint. And if you balance the width of your sitting bones, you can get this sacrum to sit smoothly in the ilium. And if you change the width of the sitting bones, it makes the sacrum either tilt forward or tilt back. And depending on the forces, forward bend, back bend. So you use your pelvic floor to adjust the width of your sitting bones. And you can get rid of any SI joint pain by adjusting the width of your sitting bones. It's micro adjustment. It takes a little practice. But yeah, the yoga is the marriage, the union of prana and apana. At least that's our beginning level. And once they interpenetrate, then you wake up samanavayu and navel. You get a Ganesh guy. Don't put that in the advertising. Everybody wants to trim on, but you do enough, you get hot.
I never write that stuff.
Okay, now let's go on to Urdhva Dhanurasana. I'll show you the position here. So this is all of the same things. Cobra hoodie, lower cobra coming up, endless coccyx, made of gold. Here. So this is my back bend right here. That's it. What we're going to do is, this is illegal, we're going to engage the apana pattern strongly initially before we go to the full upward bone. So this is the position. Exhaling, lift. Pull here. Hamstrings down. Lower front rib that way. Coccyx that way. So that's, then you want to keep that pattern. And on the inhale, you push the sacrum up and in to the lower belly. But you don't want to lose the tone of the hamstrings, which is first is imaginary. You just imagine you're doing this. And the coccyx you can imagine is made of gold, like Hanuman's tail, golden tail, comes up between the legs.
So you're keeping that pattern, and then you go way up there, and we'll lose it. So that keeps this soft and wide, and the psoas muscle won't contract. UL muscles in the ilium and the 12th group, they don't contract. And then, when you finally go up, you do this action, the psoas stretch, by rotating the shoulder blade out. And then as the shoulder blade ascends, the collarbone moves back. Then you'll have the option of putting the heels down and lifting orthodox. So we're lifting the heels just for educational purposes. Imagine that the hamstrings pull the sitting bones. This is an atomic thing. And when the hamstrings pull the sitting bones, that also opposes the psoas muscle, the rectus spine, UL muscle. So it'll keep your back testing. And sometimes all you have to do is just imagine it, and you'll get enough muscle. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's almost like watching a field pattern. It's a little subtle, and that'll be enough to do the job. So we'll come into that headstand position, and then inhale all the way up. Keep your back wide, similar to the downward dog. Downward dog is the same as upward dog. Same posture, just flipped over. Same instructions. Just the shoulder blade, roll back and collarbone. And same. Upward bow, downward bow. Here we go. We'll do this 108. Good thing. Some packages of 108. Oh yeah, you don't want to hyperextend. The elbow, in your elbow, a micro bend. Just micro. And that way you get a sense of flow. It feels like your psoas is your arm. It's like bright. It lights up like twin arches. Wow. It's so nice. Here we go. So before you go up, smile. Take a big breath in, fill your kidneys, hundreds of gallons of fresh air. And then exhale, lift the hips just 3 inches, and then pull and lift your heels. Come to a headstand with your heels lifted. Tippy toe headstand. And bring your elbows back in so your upper arms are almost parallel. And then whenever the wind is favorable, inhale, you're going to go up to the summit. Loop that sacrum up and in your lower belly. Wow! Spread the skin of the lower back. And just lengthen those arms to twice their natural length. Let the collarbones roll back. But drop your pubic bone back onto the coccyx. So the pubic bone sees the brightness of the coccyx. The skin of the lower front ribs flows softly towards the pubic bone. And that'll give you a sense of the tail. So the lower back ribs, kidney wings, stay wide. And then come back down. So tuck the head, place the shoulders, place the sacrum. Once the sacrum is on the floor, relax the palate. The gap. That was 1. 107. Have you ever done 108? I've done factors. 12. Well, they're not done 12. Let's see where I'm forward. So, again, parallel feet at first. Because once you get up, by the way, once you're really in orbit, you can switch off the booster rockets. Buttocks doesn't have to come, as long as the PC muscle is willing to take over a little responsibility for coccyx. Let's see. Maybe that's just a crazy theory. Hands by the head. Elbows come in. Collarbones roll back as kidney wings spread. Simultaneous exhale. Pull the knees over the tips of your toes. Pull the coccyx to a point between your knees. Let the pubic bone go to that same point. Feel the skin of lower front ribs softly flowing towards the pubic bone. That's eccentric tone of pelvic. And then when you're ready, the inhale boots you up to the stomach. Spread your lower back. Wrap the kidney wing, wrap the shoulder blades out wide. And then as you push longer through the inner heel of the hand, the collarbones roll back. Don't imagine that your hamstrings are still online. Lower front ribs flow softly towards the pubic bone. Twist off, and then come back down. So tuck the head, place the shoulders, place the sacrum, relax the palate. Let's do it. Okay. What rolls the collarbone back is a passive movement that stretches, so it's done mechanically by rotating out and lengthening. It keeps the armpit hollow, so actually the lats slightly. It's as if you're taking a swimming stroke. So if you're doing a crawl, you reach up, and as you push the hand down to the water, the shoulder blade that will relax the pectoralis minor, and that keeps the shoulder from dislocating when you apply force this way. I did swimming. You got to swim 100 laps studying that. That's the second. Oh, later tonight. Here we go. Number 3. Remember, this is just a breathing exercise. Prana and apana is inhaling, exhaling. Layman's terms. Everything is all set. Parallel. Smile before you go up. Big inhale, then let the exhale pull you to base camp. Exhale pulls the sitting bones, coccyx, and pubic bone to a point between the knees. And then inhale, up we go. But really imagine that the cobra hoodies are spreading all the way up your spine. You're spreading. You're pumping belly, going back down. Whoa, and you quietly put the inner heel down. But don't lose the golden quality of coccyx. The skin of lower front ribs flows down towards the pubic bone. And then we come back down. So, tuck the head, place the shoulders, that's the sacrum. And then relax the palate. But when you release your palate, then your awareness just goes straight into the fields of the senses without conceptual filters. So it's just like, and there's only this residue, miscellaneous stuff. Okay, let's do it. Yeah. Oh, where's the head? It's usually on the end of the neck. So what some people do is, in order to motivate themselves, they try to look at their heels and think, and that's more rajasic, because that'll contract. But sometimes just to get going. But I like, so Guruji would always say, oh, nasatra drishti. So you're content and sattvic. But then, if you're too content and sattvic, you won't even come up. But looking down the nose is fun, because looking down the nose mechanically releases the posterior suboccipital muscles. Looking up with the eyes mechanically makes them contract. And then that contraction shortens the back of the spine. Here we go. We'll do it. No. You want the shoulder blade to spiral and go up to infinity. But you want the skin between the shoulder blades to flow down to the tail. So the skin from here flows down, draining. Yeah, the actual shoulder blade doesn't come down. When it's set correctly, it goes up, same in downward dog. But no tension in the upper pieces. Upper traps are soft, levator scapulae is soft, and all thanks to the serratus anterior. You got to Google serratus anterior. And PC muscle. Yeah, I'm starting to build it on Going back then. For 5 minutes. Yeah, go up. Then go back then. You're on the shoulder blade with out. So the shoulder blade wrapping out, following the line of serratus anterior. See this length in the arms, okay. And the collarbone goes back. The longer the shoulder blade technically starts to ascend in the way on. As we come, it gets closer. Just like downward dog. What a lot of yoga, they'll take your humerus and twist it, but it's actually the shoulder blade that wants to do that. Otherwise, you'll start using your rotator cuff, but you won't set the actual scapula. So, downward dog, you set the shoulder blade out, and then you spin the forearm in, and the rotator cuff is soft, the deltoid is soft, rather than twisting humerus. This is just a cheap way of getting there. It's really exciting. Let's try that. Okay. So much theory. This is 99% theory. 1% practice. So be free aligned. If you're free aligned, you'll be happy. Free and light. You're already enlightened, which takes a huge burden off of your body. Poor body. Okay, here we go. After a big inhale, exhale, pull your knees over the tips of your toes. See if you can lengthen your coccyx as if it were a monkey's tail, on a monk's tail. And then inhale, spread the lower back, inflate your water wings in the lower back, extra wide. Lengthening the coccyx. Imagine the skin of the lower front ribs softly flowing that way. And you could sacrum higher, sacrum up and in. The skin of the lower front ribs flows forward. You can't just herniate the belly. Close the kidney. Good, and then we'll come down. That was that good? Okay, we'll do one more. We'll try to get 9. Yeah.
So, most people seem to be more flexible at like L5, S1, dump in the low back. Do you have any tips for how to really curl the thoracic more?
Oh, how to curl the thoracic? Yeah. This question is, this thoracic seems to be, yeah, that's true for most people. You get very little extension in the thoracic, and even less in the sacrum. I mean, there's a lot of bone. So the key points, if you're assisting somebody in the background, you find the most apophic points, which is the middle of the thoracic and the middle of the sacrum, and you push those points in, and it's the same structure as a bow, like when you're shooting a bow and arrow. So you find the opposite arc,
pushing that point in, and then the sacrum. And that will create the most length in the part. So you want to extend, you get the active backbend in the lumbar and then the cervical. But you want to keep the back of the lumbar and cervical as long as possible, so there's no compression here. And then, so for the neck, you have to get the T6 behind the heart to go way in, up, and then you can open the neck. But if this is closed, as if you had an albatross hanging on your neck, you try to extend the neck, but just crush the vertebra together. Same here for the lumbar, same action, but you've got to push the middle of the sacrum in and up. And then the lumbar won't compress. So you get, and the same here, you push the center of the thoracic in and up, and then the neck won't compress. If your palate is empty. All of this if the palate is empty. So to have an empty palate, you have to have passion and sense of humor. Sometimes it's hard to come up with a joke. So at that point, you got to be passionate. Let's do another one. By populating the neck. Remember, this is a breathing exercise. Oh, mercy, mercy. Breathe. And the breath will go into everything. The breath already knows all of this stuff. So just turn it over. Okay, breath. I surrender. Big breath in, fills the kidney wings. The exhale pulls the four corners of your pelvic floor to a point between the knees. And then when you're ready, the inhale boots you up to the summit of the mountain, but wrap the shoulder blades wide, and then lengthen the arms. Remember the arms stretched psoas. You get this right sitting. Psoas muscles lengthens. The coccyx pops up between the legs like Hanuman's tail. Pubic bone, she swoons and falls back onto the coccyx. So the buttocks is actually soft. And then we come back down. And we release the palate. The palate releases sacrum. Think about this. The palate is the sacrum of your head. And the sacrum